Please welcome the incredible Amy Wallin,
Thanks for having me, Renee.
all the way from the land down under.
It feels very much like that today as well.
Oh man, we had so much fun when we were there last month. I can't believe it's been almost a month since we've been in Australia.
Honestly, Noosa, like where one of the key places you went, it is so lovely there, but it would be like our version of the Hamptons, Noosa is. So
Yeah, that's what I heard. 20 years ago, I went to Australia
oh yeah.
and I lived there for a year. I had Melbourne, as you guys say, was home base. And I loved Melbourne. It reminds me of like Montreal. It's like the Montreal of Canada. And I just traveled up the coast. So I was young, single, everything I owned was in one bag.
I know.
And this time, standing on the beach of the Whit Sundays, watching my kids play in the water, walking down the beach with my husband, I'm like, this is what you dream of.
Yeah, what a trip. Whit Sundays, gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Honestly, I feel like maybe I drank too much beer the last time I was there 20 years ago because I'm like, I don't remember this being so beautiful.
I think just like don't have as much appreciation when you're a bit younger because the things that are so exciting is alcohol and is like having fun, especially if you're single. But as soon as you're a little bit more settled, you can actually just take in what's around you.
Well, that's it. There were moments I'm like, I'm like taking a mental picture. Go, these are the moments that matter right now. Is this because 20 years ago, this is what I hoped to see and feel when I came back here. And it was probably better than that. It was so perfect. The weather was perfect. The beach was perfect. We also went up to Hamilton Island, which was also so cool.
Yep.
Super posh.
The sand in Hamilton, like it's just pure white. It's actually a little bit blinding if you're not like wearing your sunglasses. Gorgeous though.
Yeah, but it's jellyfish season.
Mm.
And my sons encountered some wildlife in Australia.
I mean, yeah, that is Australia for you. They tend to creep up on you one way or another.
They got some jellyfish on them.
Oh,
a little
no.
stingy.
No.
Anyways, but we're going to chat about some really awesome things. First of all, you're a sponsor of the show and the inaugural sponsor, and who we have come on as a partner is so important because it has to be an extension of stuff we already talk about. You're also a really cool chick. But in my husband's book, Buy Back Your Time, in chapter 6, I think it's chapter 6, it's called Clone Yourself. And he talks about the importance of why an assistant will set you free. And I had not learned this lesson until I hired my first assistant, Morgan, who will be listening to this. Hi, Morgan. And let me tell you, do they ever not only free up your time, but it almost like it opens a whole new portal in the world of business. Yeah. So tell us, Amy, first of all, what is your business? How'd you get into this world?
Yeah, right. So my business is Linked VA. We're a virtual assistant agency. And how we got into it was actually quite funny. We've got a sister company called The Expert Project, where we help a lot of clients out with their marketing and their sales. And what we found initially is that all of these business owners were like, yep, no, I know I need the strategy. I know I need to implement this. I know I need to generate leads. But actually taking the consecutive action every single day that you need to take was just something that most people didn't have time to do. So I sat down with the CEO over there and I was like, listen, I feel like we need to be able to fill this demand. Otherwise we're going to start losing clients. And it was how Linked VA started. So we started off with social media assistants, but since then, it turns out that virtual assistants are exactly what every single business needs. So we expanded into executive assistants and recruitment assistants and any other kind of tailored hires. And honestly, it's been a wild ride. It's been great.
You know, even people that aren't business owners need an assistant.
Yes.
I think about like my friends who are stay-at-home moms, for instance, and they're running to all of the gymnastics and soccer and hockey, and they have to sign them up for all these things and do all the doctor's appointments. It's crazy to think that, I don't want to say just because, but you're a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
You're running a business. And
Absolutely.
I never knew sometimes not only the breadth of possibility that creating space in my calendar could breathe by hiring an assistant, but also how much happier I become, how much more time I'll have for working out, for being with my kids, for being more creative and looking at things more strategically as opposed to checking things off a to-do list and feeling so burnt out. It's a game changer. And this is why Dan talks about this in his book, To Clone Yourself.
I find it funny, like back when we were business coaching, one thing we would always say, like, is it's really lonely in business sometimes. Like, especially if you don't have a business partner or, someone that's involved in your business, you're kind of making these decisions on a bit of a whim. You're like, I don't know if I'm making the right call here. I just need to talk this over with someone. And I've found that, like, because I've got an EA myself, Rose, couldn't live without her, but she's become that person for me, for my personal life. So she knows everything that I'm going through. She knows when I'm struggling to go on dates. She knows when I'm overwhelmed, like, because I just finished a master's degree. So she has all the insights into my life and just takes off all of the stress from me. Like, it's incredible. I couldn't do it without her.
It's true. You have to put so much trust into them. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why, well, for me personally, was so hard to hire somebody, because they're going to know all the ugly things that's going on in your life. They're going to know your calendar. They're going to see those emails, the ones that you don't want anybody to see. They're going to see it. They're going to know the passwords, the things. And that was, for me, was the biggest hesitation. But I found the right person. And when I opened up my email to delegate to her, it was like one of the last things I did. I was like, wait a second, you mean I don't have to check my email? And by the way, not only don't have to, but I shouldn't, because there's a process for this.
Yes.
But get this. She's been working with me for probably 2 years now. Gosh, I don't even know. And only a month or 2 months ago was when I actually gave her capacity to manage my calendar.
You're really holding on to that one.
I was, because I was worried. But here's where I let it be okay. Was we came up with parameters around when she can actually book stuff. And it was very simple. We use Calendly as a tool. Mm-hmm. I went in and I created like the main calendar. You can't book on Mondays and Fridays, on weekends or evenings. And if there's an opening anywhere else, throw it in there. But also let me know. Like, Vox me and let me know something's been added. And I was like, why was I waiting so long to do this? So stupid.
Oh, like when I had Rose take over my calendar, it took us a while to figure out what, my perfect week looks like. And because I'd never really known it before, I didn't know how to best manage my energy. I didn't know when I was, feeling the most strategic or the most charismatic or anything like that. But having Rose actually just systemizing this process, it became so much easier. So now I know I can't have more than, 4-hour-long calls with someone a day. Otherwise, I'll just start running out of steam. And I know that I have to put all of my calls in exactly the same time, so I'm not wasting time in between. I know that I have to have a half day on Friday. Like, just having someone who's there to protect your time from yourself is the best.
Oh, yeah. That's it. You're the worst enemy.
I'm the worst enemy. Like, Rose is constantly fighting with me for me. And thank God someone's in my corner.
Right? Exactly. So when you have these clients that come in, because you've been doing this for some time now, at what stage are most of these businesses trying to find an assistant?
To be honest, recently, like in the last 6 months, it's normally because people have heard of a virtual assistant or an executive assistant, and they've been like, oh, I feel like I should check it out. I don't really know if this is something I need. And so when I'm having sales calls with people like that, you kind of have to sell the premise of getting on a virtual assistant or an executive assistant before you can sell the service, which is frustrating because that's 2 different sales that you've got to make in one go. But the people who come on and they're like, I'm already too busy, I'm at 120% capacity, they're a lot easier to sell because they already know the pain that they're in. They already know what's possible. And they're my favorite people to sell because they'll make decisions pretty quickly. Stress can do that to someone. But yeah, it's normally the people that they just don't realize what's possible that makes up most of my client base.
Now, do some people come in and they're interested because they heard that it helps? Like maybe they read Dan's book And do they ask themselves, but I don't know what to delegate to them?
Yes. And it's so funny that you should say that, because in this last week, I think I've had 3 people who have mentioned buy back your time to me. And which is great, because I can say to them, oh, listen, we know all about buy back your time. We train our executive assistants up in buy back your time principles, the email GPS, the perfect week, sync meetings, all that kind of stuff, which they love, because it just feels like this perfect little puzzle piece that's coming in. They're like, I need everything that's in this book. And we're like, well, hold on, because that's everything that we do. Yeah.
Well, it's crazy. When should somebody be hiring an assistant?
What I say to people, and this might not be just exclusive to assistants, it's kind of just employees in general. It's when you're at 75% capacity and still growing. Because what most people do is that they wait until they're at 100% capacity. They stress make a decision, which means they might be finding the wrong person. They're not going to be onboarding them properly. They're not communicating properly because they're already too busy. And then they'll try and get someone on and jam them into a space that they might not fit in. So if you've got yourself at 75% capacity, you've got a little bit of thinking time to actually make sure you're getting the right person in and you're teaching them the right things and giving them the best chance of success as well.
So what's the biggest hesitation that people, like, I know for me, it was, I knew I needed it to get to the next level, because you can't do, as Dan says, you can't build $1 million business on $10 tasks.
Yes.
But I was so worried about the training I would have to do to onboard. I was already so busy. I may have been at 100%, maybe not, close enough.
Yep.
And I was like, wait a second, add more to my plate? So that stops a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. And like putting aside things like logistics and finances and things that, are reasons that people actually might not go ahead. Most of the time it actually just boils down to perfectionism. So, people want, and it's more with women than anyone else, is that they want something to be perfect before they hand it over. They want a perfect process before they hand it over. And then you just kind of have this paralysis by analysis. Whereas, well, what's the saying we have here? It's progress, not perfection. Sometimes you've just got to take imperfect action to get anywhere. And that's the only way that you can actually move forward. Like, just be a little bit average for a while until you find your feet and slow down to speed up.
The irony is that your assistant could be the one creating the playbooks for all of this.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, they might come in having a crap ton of experience in calendar management, email management, all this other stuff, way better than us. And we're actually doing them a disservice by thinking, oh, here's the playbook I want to use. This is how we do things. It's like, there's no point. It's like, it's very ironic that they do that. So with those, especially entrepreneurs and leaders who have a terrible time in letting go of tasks, I think it's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
What mental shifts do you suggest that these entrepreneurs take in order to effectively delegate?
I think the first thing you've got to realize is just have a little bit of self-awareness. Like, when you are sitting so close to the problem, and the problem is you in this situation, it's really hard to, read the ingredients from inside of the jar. So if you're having another person analyzing what your time is like, what your energy is like, from an outside perspective, they're going to see things so much more clearly than you, because you are so wrapped up in the strategy of your business and what's going on at home. Like, you're not thinking about protecting you. You need someone else to be doing that. So yeah, that's pretty much the thing that holds people back, is, and especially women, is that we're not on our own side. So get someone else on your side, make that decision, and everything else just becomes so much smoother.
Because we don't believe that we deserve that help.
Exactly. And we do. We absolutely do. And that's like one of the things, it's like, especially when I'm talking to women who are coming on as clients, they're like, oh no, but I'm not that stressed. I do have a little bit of time here. And I was like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you have an hour that you've got for yourself every single Friday, because you could have half of your week looking like that. You deserve that. And sometimes it's just telling them that they actually deserve a little bit more. That is the thing that shifts it for them.
So one woman I mentor, we actually had a call today, and she wants to launch a new podcast, and she has all these beautiful, audacious goals, all very achievable. But because her vision for it is so big that she actually doesn't take the first step.
Yeah.
So I go, what's the 80-year-old version of yourself? What would the 80-year-old version say to you right now, thanking you for the decision that you're going to make? And she went on and she listed 5 things and she started to cry. And like everything that is causing that emotion is because it is so important to you. And it could be God working through you, whatever it is, you have to do it.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I don't know what to do first. And I said, I'll give you some basic business advice. So turns out she'd been talking about this for a while, as she wanted to launch her new podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what needs to be true for this to happen? And she goes, well, I need an assistant. And I'm like, perfect. I go, do you have the budget to hire somebody for like 10 hours a week?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Awesome. Create a list of things that they're going to do, the stuff you don't like to do. Awesome. Create a simple strategy for them to follow. Pick a date that this thing's going to launch and work backwards from there.
Yeah.
It's like, the concept is so simple.
Yeah.
Her deserves to be launching this podcast. She deserves to be starting her memoir. She deserves to be doing all this stuff. What's stopping her is thinking that she's got to do it all.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she has time budget and money budget to be able to back this, we overthink these things.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. I think just like standing at the bottom of a mountain being like, oh my God, how am I going to get all the way to the top of that? Just got to realize all you have to do is take the first step right now. Like you don't need to worry about what you need to do at the top of the mountain because you're not there yet. Just take the first step.
That's it. Because we see the whole mountain. And isn't there a book? I haven't read it yet, but it's called The Mountain Is Not You. It probably has nothing to do with this. Or The Mountain Is You or something. Today, the mountain is not you.
Yeah.
But that's true. We have these grand ideas, which is beautiful. But then we think all the work involved to get there. So instead of actually doing the work, I'm going to talk about all my great ideas and talk about all the things I want to accomplish. To the day I become that 80-year-old woman, I'll regret the things I didn't even try doing.
Yeah.
Because we're so afraid of taking that first step.
Yeah. And so afraid that it's not going to turn out exactly how you imagined it's going to turn out.
But it could be better.
But it's always going to be better.
Most of the time, it could be better.
Yeah.
So my event, the Pink Skirt Project, that's coming up in June here in Kelowna, BC, is realistically, we could sell 350 tickets to this event. Mm-hmm. So right now we're selling 300. That was our goal, 300. And thinking about that event, it's huge. So how it all transpired was when I went to the venue that my heart was set on, I said, what's the max capacity for theater style seating? They're like 300 people. It's like, oh, perfect. I'll just sell 300 tickets. Huh. Turns out that's not a small event.
That's a big event. Yeah.
But there is a finish line. The finish line is the end of the day, June 12th. Mm-hmm. And I've never run a big event like this before. So I partnered with somebody who does events for a living, Anita, and she's incredible. And we worked backwards from there. So now I know what needs to get done. And I look at some of these things and it's not in my wheelhouse. I don't want to do it. And I protect my evenings because I want to be with my kids. I talk to my assistant, Morgan. And I say, hey, Morgan, can you do this, this, and this? Hey, Morgan, you were working on this and I only have you for like 20 hours a week. Can you focus on these things instead? And it's a quick shift. So now I can focus on the things that I do best. And before I know it, this whole event is exceeding my expectations. Had it not been for that help from my assistant, I wouldn't have been able to do this. Yeah. And guess what? When you create that capacity in your calendar, then you can actually make more money. So when people say they can't afford it, I think it's a lie.
Oh, honestly, like one of the big conversations I have with people when, like sometimes on sales calls or sometimes when I'm doing webinars is we'll actually do a bit of an analysis. So the cost of an EA, for example, isn't just what you're going to be paying them or, paying the company to get them. It's everything. It's everything that you're not doing when you're in there doing your own calendar or your own emails or your own anything. What else could you be doing that would be the thing that's making you money? Like would throwing an event be the thing that's making you more money that actually grows your business? Would running a webinar be that thing? Would being on a sales call be that thing? But you're not doing it because you're spending all of your time doing the bullshit tasks.
Yep. The $10 tasks that will not make you a millionaire.
Yes, exactly.
So say we've convinced somebody now, they're going to go check out Linked VA. I think it's linkedva.com. It'll be in the show notes. They're like adamant, that's it. Amy and Renee, I'm hiring my first assistant.
Perfect.
And now they're matched with somebody and it's like day one. What are the common mistakes that people make in the first few months with their assistant?
The very first mistake that people will make is that they won't give their executive assistants an expectation. So I'm bringing you on to accomplish this thing. A lot of the time people will jump straight into tasks and say, I need you to do this. I need you to do this. I need you to do this, because normally they're so frantic because they're so busy. They're just like, I need to get rid of these tasks. But if you don't know what the overall aim is for your executive assistant, then they're always just going to be doing tasks and not actually helping you to achieve that goal. And for most people, that goal might be, I want to work 4 days a week, or I want to leave work at 5 p.m. so I can spend more time with my kids. But if you're actually bringing your executive assistant into that goal to begin with, they can actually help you to achieve it. So they're not just, okay, yep, I'll get this task done for you. They're looking for opportunities to make you achieve that goal. Or they're fighting with you like Rose does and saying, no, right, Amy, remember, you wanted to go home at 5 p.m. today. You wanted to have a half day on Friday or whatever it is. I'm like, okay, yes, that's right. But if I'd have just given her tasks, she wouldn't be doing that for me. So she wouldn't be bringing that additional value, which is really what makes an executive assistant stand out.
Because she doesn't know what she's working towards.
Yes.
Haven't painted the vision. And here's what's beautiful about this, and what a great answer, by the way, is when you set the vision, then they also can see what needs to get done.
Yeah.
So like with Morgan,
see.
That's it. Mm-hmm. And with Morgan, she knows like we have 2 home runs with this podcast and the event. Everything else is just gravy or a distraction.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll be like, hey, we should double down on our LinkedIn strategy. Distraction, Renee, come back.
Yes.
And a great assistant will help you stay the course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You have to share that vision.
Like our conversations I have had with Rose, we're like, oh, I'm looking at doing this. I'm looking at doing this. And she's so gentle. She's so lovely. Like she never is like, Amy, don't be ridiculous. We're not doing this. She'll be like, okay. And when are we going to find time to do X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, okay. Yeah, no, I hear what you're not saying to me, Rose.
Yeah. And we have to train them to essentially with conviction tell us where our blind spots are.
Yeah.
So when I finally delegated to Morgan and I gave her the parameters, she was always been after me for recording my solo episodes because we do interviews on Tuesdays and solos on Thursdays.
Yeah.
And the solos always get away from me because I can record them whenever I have free time. But, you know, there is some craft that goes into creating the outlines and like what I'm going to talk about. And it wasn't like a month ago, I looked at my calendar for like the next day and I saw her schedule time for me to record a solo episode. And we never talked about it, but she knew I needed to get it done without even asking. She put it in there. And that was the moment I was like, oh, this is how it works. Oh, I was like, good job, girl.
Yeah. Thank you for looking out. She does it. So I have like sync meetings with Rose every Monday afternoon. And I go through it. I'm like, okay, well, these are all my top projects that I'm working on. And she now knows that when I say, oh yeah, I need to design a webinar, she now knows, okay, Amy needs 3 hours uninterrupted just to design a webinar. So she'll go in and book that into my calendar on the days that we specified. This is a strategy day. This is a creative day. This is like where we have meetings. So she just has like beautiful blocks in my calendar just to do those things because that's where it aligns with my energy the best. And Rose, bless her, she's only just started now that I get like all of my Zoom transcripts sent to my email. She will go through the meeting notes, like the summary at the end and be like, well, hey, Amy, I noticed in your meeting, you said you needed to do X, Y, and Z. Do you want me to send off that email? Do you want me to do this? And I'm like, oh, I completely forgot. I said all of those things in that meeting. Exactly.
And you blows your mind like, yes. Oh, and while you're at it, by the way, can you top up my Amazon shopping cart? No.
Yes.
But also like how exhilarating it is for them to be able to do that because then they feel like a champion because they're figuring things out. They're finding things that you need to do.
Yes.
And it's
just
that liberty of like
communicating that.
giving them that space to be able to do the thing you hired them to do.
Yes. And communicating it back to them. Like in so many instances, like we might have people say, oh, I didn't like that my executive assistant did this, or I really liked that they did that. I wish they did more of that. And I'm like, well, have you told them this? And it's always my first go-to point, because people honestly just don't see giving feedback as something that they're allowed to do. They kind of just expect everyone to understand, oh no, this isn't right, or this isn't wrong. And everyone quotes common sense, which is actually my most hated phrase, because none of us are in common. Why would we have common sense? What is common to you is not common to anyone else. So
don't tell my kids that.
Don't expect it. Listen, your sense is their sense now. That's the rules.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. Yeah. We have a term in our household. We're not allowed to use the word that's unfair.
Yeah.
Because I say life's unfair. And they're like, well, what do you mean by that, Mom? Okay. So then my next question is about, I love the theme of earning the right. So there's no, like, everyone deserves to have capacity to work on the things they're truly passionate about. And I know some roadblocks are, how much does this cost? How does this work? Like, how much of they will stop themselves from pursuing this. I was this person.
Yeah.
I was this person that was like, wait, how much do you cost? Okay, so I get 10 hours a week. What exactly can you do in 10 hours? What's the capacity of the stuff can you do in 10 hours? It was really stupid because you got to paint the vision, but I never felt deserving of that help. And I know you mentioned like some mindset stuff, but like, what is something else, especially for female entrepreneurs, when we talk about getting help in their business? Because this is really what it comes under. It's like the bucket of getting help. And we don't believe like we deserve it.
Yeah. I might get a bit philosophical here, but I think like it's a very Western term, deserving something. And it's the same kind of thing as fairness. Like we've got it in our minds that there's these checks and balances in the universe where you have to do one thing to get another thing. But that actually just isn't how the world works. Like there's no such thing as, earning your way a lot of the time. Like sometimes it is just luck. Sometimes it is just coincidence and the way things fall. If you want to get something, you have to do it. You have to go after it yourself. And if you're going to keep having all of these limiting beliefs about, no, I have to do A, B, and C before I get D, E, F, it's just never going to happen. So you need to be the one that actually decides, I'm going to go after this thing. I don't need to earn this thing. I can just have it if it's there for the taking. And something as simple as like getting an executive assistant on or taking a small action so that someone else can help you. That's so small when you think about it. Like if you put yourself into the mindset of people who have done really incredible things, they didn't decide, oh yeah, no, actually I have to deserve this first. They just went out there and got it because it was there for the taking. So if you can get that mindset on, that's going to be the thing that's going to level you right up.
The same rules apply to ice cream, by the way. You don't have to go. You don't have to go for your run. You can eat ice cream before your run if you want to.
You can do what you want. There are no rules.
There are no rules. And the best way to start too, if this has not been something common to you as a listener, is to find somebody who can take over a task that you really despise doing. And it could be 5 hours a week. Here's what happens is you end up employing somebody else. You're giving somebody else an opportunity to make an income. You're giving somebody else the opportunity to work on something they actually love doing. Just because you don't like doing it doesn't mean other people don't. My assistant, when I taught her how to pitch the media, because I loved running an agency. I loved the strategy. I hated the monotonous task of pitching and following up, pitching and following up. And so one day as we were reviewing our first month of her doing my pitching, I asked her, Morgan, how are you enjoying this? Because I really didn't want her to be doing something she hated too. She goes, Renee, I actually really love this.
Yeah.
I looked at her like she was some monster. So, really? Okay. And then when she told me the things that she didn't like to do, and I was like, God damn it, I wish you loved to do that stuff.
Yeah.
I realized her role. And when you played on the strength, then that was next level. Yeah. So it was so cool what she was able to do for me, because then when I landed other PR clients, she ended up pitching them.
Yeah,
I didn't have to do the work.
absolutely. And it's so funny that you say that, because like one thing a lot of conversations I'll have on sales calls or with new clients is they think that they just want another version of themselves. And I was like, well, if you're going to get rid of all of the difficult tasks or all the just annoying tasks, why would you hire someone who is exactly like you? Because they're also not going to want to do those tasks. Like, especially if you're someone who's camera facing, in a way, you don't want to hire someone who's going to have your exact same mindset. You want someone who's going to be really organized to keep you organized. Like, that's how you get a good balance, because you need someone who's going to be strong where you're weak.
That's true. And I guess the chapter of his book is called Clone Yourself. So I'll let him know that you disagree, that it should be called that. We got to rename that.
Sort it out. Yeah.
But the point of
clone a better version of you.
Well, that's it. And he talks about like wearing all the hats and then going by the book, all this stuff. Anyways, the free yourself jumpstart. What he means by clone yourself is take the stuff that you've done successfully in your business to this point that no longer is something you should be managing, and then give that to somebody else.
Oh, yeah. And
release that of you, give it.
There's a big distinction between, tasks that you've got to do that are very just follow the bouncing ball and actual strategic thinking. And I think if you're going to be a business owner, you've got to be the one who is wearing that strategic hat as much as possible. So if there are tasks that are just follow the bouncing ball, which is, let's be honest, 80% of the tasks that we do, give it to someone else to follow the bouncing ball, so you can focus on what's actually going to be growing your business.
Yep. Here is something else that I'm in the process of looking for a very specific type of coach, a business coach. And I realized I can turn over in bed and ask one of the world's top business coaches any question I want. I get it. That's not the type of energy that I'm looking for. I want more feminine energy. So anyway, I was jumping into somebody's DMs and asking her if she did one-on-one coaching. And then I got a little copy reply, and then I got a voice note, and it was somebody with a very distinguished UK accent. I'm like, this isn't the person. And they're like, this is so-and-so, so-and-so's, like, I work for so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this isn't even her, but that's cool. And then she was asking me questions. And then she's like, you know what? Our mastermind opens up next week. So let's jump on a call right away. I'll go through the process. All right. So sure enough, they only have a couple of spots left. Jumped on a call, and it wasn't even the coach. It was the salesperson doing the talk, the razzle dazzle. And she did a great job and answered all my questions. And then it got me thinking, I didn't even have to talk to the person whom I want to hire to actually convert me into the program.
Yeah.
So where am I going wrong in my business? We're thinking I have to be the one in the DMs. I have to be the one answering the emails. I have to be the one scheduling everything, replying to everything. Nope. Doesn't change anything except for the fact that once I'm delegated it to somebody else, now I got my time back.
And I feel like it also just elevates you as well. Like if there are more obstacles to actually get a chance to talk to you, the person who is trying to chase you is like, well, now I've got to get through these obstacles. This is brilliant. Because by the time you actually talk to them, like, so by the time you spoke to this coach, like, you were already sold on everything that she was doing, because like you want the exact same thing.
But the cool thing about it too is it sets the expectation that she is not at my disposal.
Yes.
And that was very clear in the communication, not in some aggressive way or entitled way. It was like, no, she's going to preserve the energy for what she is the best in the world at for this one thing. And the team's going to manage the rest of the stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
So we got to think about, where is that reflective in our business, where we're not actually preserving the thing that we are so good at because we feel like we have to do everything else. And we're not letting the experts come in. Like, she has a team of 6 people that go through different stages of the 6-month container. I was like, this is so good. Do I ever get to talk to her at all? Who knows?
Do I need to? Like,
no,
at that
probably
stage?
Not.
Yeah.
So this goes with the quote, is that people buy your, what is it? People don't buy your presence. They buy your Oh, what's the word I'm looking for?
I have no idea.
Your standards. People don't buy your presents, they buy your
Yes.
standards.
Yes. Yeah.
So like anything, you walk into an IKEA and it's not the founder of IKEA that's at every station, at every checkout, but they've created a standard in the organization. So you go in, same with the McDonald's.
Yes.
Go into a McDonald's anywhere in the world, some of the menus slightly different, but the standards are all the same.
Yeah. And it's so important. Like, so right now, when I finish a sales call, if I'm jumping on a sales call, I'll have my executive assistant follow people up for me. And never are people upset at that, because that's the standard I expect, not just for myself and my clients, but for my executive assistants as well, which is so handy, especially with what I sell, because they can see it live and in action. They're like, oh, this is what an executive assistant does. I'm not upset by this. I would like someone to do this for me. Come on in.
Well, next level for you would be getting them on doing the sales calls.
Oh yeah, that's the dream.
It'll happen.
Yeah. Well, it's already happening at the moment. I've got like, I do have other salespeople in my organization, but the thing that I've kind of overcome this year already in January is that they actually don't need to always be based in the office with me. I always had this mindset of, yeah, but I really just want to be able to shout over at the office next to me or walk past and listen to what they're saying. But it's actually just not necessary. Like, you don't need to do that. Just set up the systems and it can work from anywhere.
So this sales call that I had today, this is why it's so fresh on my mind. The coach is located in the US.
Yeah.
I think in California. So this saleswoman who is from the UK, we got to talking about time zones. And I go, where are you located anyway? She goes, well, I'm actually from the UK, but I'm in Nicaragua surfing. And I go, what? Oh my God, that's so cool. Of course, where you are doesn't matter. So that's interesting. That goes back to one of your mindsets, your beliefs, that in order for this to be effective, they physically had to be with you.
Yeah. And it's just not true.
So how did you get over that?
Well, I think I had to very quickly when I wanted to set up a virtual agency. And I think I got it into my head that, you know, if I'm going to start outsourcing stuff, it can only be the $10 an hour tasks. But it's not true, because the same kind of standards exist everywhere in the world. Like, it would be so foolish of me to think that the best is in this one small city that I get to live in. Like, no, that's not real. Better salespeople exist anywhere else. Better account manager exists everywhere else. Like, better coaches exist everywhere else. And just trying to section it off into exactly one country is going to be something that's going to keep my business down, because it's going to be the thing that ties me to my country's economy or to my town's availability. And it's just, I don't need another bottleneck. Like, the world is my oyster, literally. We live in the 21st century and anyone can be hired.
So I remember when I ran my previous agency, we worked with funded technology companies. So where would you assume the best place for me to be would be? Probably San Francisco.
Yeah, Silicon Valley.
We were on the way east coast of Canada. So when you actually look at North America, San Francisco is probably one of the furthest parts. And we had clients all over the world because what we did not require us to physically be there with them. Yes, it helped to meet sometimes in person, in which we traveled. That's fine. But when you limit the possibility to what's in your community or across town, you limit the growth of your business. Even looking at things where you think it's only local. My brother-in-law has a home building business and he's expanded to do big developments. Yes, when you're first starting out, it makes sense if this stuff is in your backyard. He has the possibility of building anywhere in the world. He can build developments anywhere in the world. Yeah. You just have to think that it's possible.
Yes.
Just like hiring help, hiring an assistant. It's possible for anybody.
Yeah.
What are some quick, easy first steps for somebody who is just navigating these waters to find an assistant and then get them onboarded?
I want to say just come straight to LinkVA. That is an option.
Well, go straight to linkva.com, LINKEDVA.com. Amy is the bee's knees. She'll get you hooked up. And then so they come to you, they hire an assistant, and now what's next?
So the first thing like we tend to do with people, and you can do this on your own as well, is we sit down and have what we call a success planning session, which is where we write down all of the tasks that we actually do and divvy up, like if we can just split it down the middle, if it's possible, divvy up what we can do, like to create a system for. So what are the follow the bouncing ball tasks versus what are the really strategic tasks that are so important to the growth of your business, like being on sales calls or, delivering to clients or something like that. So once we can get that really firm list of things out, just start with that. And you literally hand over that list to your executive assistant, to your virtual assistant, and they've actually got something that they can work from. But the trick is don't expect where you start to where you finish, because every single one of my clients will give me this list of these are all the tasks I want them to do. And then not even a month has gone past and they've completely changed tasks because they've realized, oh, actually, this person has skill in copywriting. This person has skill doing this, or they've shown me that they're talented in this. So if you are observant enough and flexible enough, you can find, the right seat on the bus for anyone that's actually going to see the growth of your business just skyrocket.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is to buy a copy of Buy Back Your Time.
Yes.
Head on over to linkedva.com and check it out, because there's some really cool things that Amy offers, executive assistant, social media assistant stuff, particularly LinkedIn.
Yes.
And recruitment assistant as well. So if you're looking to recruit for your business, and you guys can do this. So Amy, one last question for you. When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that to you?
I think thinking back on all the times that someone has called me wild, it is when I'm being unapologetically myself, when I'm giving my thoughts freely, when I'm not worried about how it's going to be taken or held back because society tells me that I should be a certain way. I'm just being myself. I'm being a little bit more unfiltered. And that's what being wild means to me.
You are wild. Well, so where can people go to find you online?
So I am on Instagram at amy.linkedva.com. Or no, just .linkva. You can find me at linkva.com. And hopefully this year we will be starting a podcast as well, which is first for us. So I might have to be in touch for some tips.
Oh yeah, we all need those tips. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Renee.